When we talk of two things, surviving is always about, at least to my mind, what comes is survival of the fittest, isn't it? So when you think, that's what probably we have learned, and we think of that, who will survive, who's the fittest, who's healthy, who is wealthy in our terms, in human being terms, not in animal terms, is just healthy and, can run faster and who can get the prey faster and eat it. So that's the survival of the animals. But when we talk of survival of the human beings, I think it's also survival of the fittest in different environments when you are living in, right? The only difference is that when we are talking of surviving and if we are in a family, so we talk of the survival of the family as well. But that's a very bare minimum, what I feel, survival, what means the very bare minimum. But thriving is what to me is a word where you go beyond it. You understand the needs, but whatever is coming on your way, you kind of use that and thrive in the situations which are given to you, right? It could be the pandemic, what has happened. There are so many cases who have kind of grown up, who have, ventured into different things because they could get the time. But on the other hand, also people have also been, not so well and not doing so great in their personal professional lives because of situations and the environments what they are. So for me, thriving is about using what is coming to us, as a part of when you are, when you have this, the long jumps with the blocks, with the barricades in between. So thriving is something like you're jumping on those barricades. And every time you jump that barricade, you become faster in running, right? And you become really, you put your speed to that level that you're using those barricades for your personal self, for your personal self, for the professional self, so that you're able to learn from it and integrate it in yourself as a part of your learning and really move ahead with it. So let's talk about, as I have set the context of what it means. So if Sir is here, Sir, would you like to start, say something, and then we can have some questions from these people, what it means. So that's my thought process for surviving and thriving.
Okay, so let me add few things to it and think like this, that there has been never a time, there's been never a time that when there was no uncertainty, huh? Or the world was not volatile and things were not complex and ambiguity did not exist. It isn't all the time there. What gives clue is that if you look into any Puranas, Vedas, or ancient texts, what does it talk about? Let's say, even if this is Shakti Samhita given, it's giving several remedies for several disease. It means disease did exist. If there are books of moral that telling a lie is bad, it's sin, and don't eye on this property, and be brave, be a good warrior, be a generous donor. What does it tell? It tells that there were people who were miser, there were people who were playing politics, there were people who were falling sick. So everything, even if you read from the past, so people say now the time has become like this. But if we delve into it without looking here and there, the realm of the all textures available, all wisdom available to every source, we'll find that everything that is existing today was existing. Yes, difference could be the speed has increased, and that's okay. I think that the speed of everything has increased. If in earlier time I was to reach to you, I think I can't reach you like this, neither you can reach to me like this. And naturally, when the speed will increase, it will not increase of the good things, it will also increase the speed of bad things as well. So everything that we find today is existing, but the only thing is people are pretty desperate and they're trying to survive, or they're trying to barely manage, they're trying to cope with up, rather than thinking that This is what the nature is. So if you look into the things, then the good question to ask is that what can we do to take charge? What can we do to, in fact, take control? So some insights, yes, are there. Then when you look into certain quotes of some wise people, that it is not the strongest species that survive, it's the most intelligent and the most responsive. So the I want to reframe it to that it is the quickest, okay, not the fittest, but the quickest, who are very quick, very swift, very agile. So along with the fittest, you need to use your fitness. So if you have a healthy, you have to use your health. If you're wealthy, you have to use your wealth. If you're knowledgeable, you have to use your knowledge. So how quick you can be, that decides. So it's a time to take decision that what should be our response and what can be done to stay happy and what can free you from anything that has taken you up. So that means we need to deeply somewhere need to change our beliefs and deeply believe somewhere that I think it's just not that I will be the victim. So I refuse to budge. So I have to live by my dharma, and dharma is that human beings are meant to excel, and excellence is the key. Excellence is the hallmark, and improving things and rather excelling and improving quality of those things, quality of life, quality of our wisdom, quality of our interaction. That's what has to increase. That's what dharma of human being is. So going further, if I say that the time has now come to awaken your own viveka, because we have to differentiate three things. One is information available, and that's huge and no difference. I think anybody can access it. Another is knowledge that you have gained by your experiences or by your qualification or by way of your interaction with the world or some influences, conscious or unconscious. But one is the wisdom that's eternal, that is unchanging. And until we awaken our viveka and get in touch with our true wisdom, then we may not even survive or may barely manage to survive based on the information and knowledge available. Like as in today in the present condition, if you ask deep within your own heart, if every day something is scaring you, or there is scarcity, shortage of something that you are maybe wealth or maybe opportunities, it is coming from merely the media, merely the information, and we don't have so-called wisdom to judge. For example, not going against any government policy, not going against any authority, but let's say everyone has been told to wear a mask, but think that the law and the imposition is taking over so much to us that we are not even coming true to our experience. We are denying our own experience that wearing a mask for some time start humiliating this portion, and a lot of bacteria, our own carbon dioxide, which we exhale, we inhale back. So think about it, that how we have shut our brain merely by information and knowledge, and we are just trying to survive through these conditions, these situations. And until we awaken our wisdom, we will continue inhaling. So think about it. On one side, we do a lot of pranayam, and we're told that okay, oxygenate your whole body. But on the other hand, if you wear your own mask, think that how it is in fact, instead of oxygenating, you are carbon dioxidizing your own system. And I felt that if I wear it even for some time, I start feeling tired. And there could be many like me. But just to merely survive, we are throwing our viveka back, wisdom back. It could be a voice of wisdom, or it could be another way of technology. We might have to use it. rather than just whatever is going on. I don't know what that could be. But survival is merely adopting what the knowledge, information, influence is telling. Wisdom is finding something better and still managing uh, the filtration process, though I don't know what that will be. I have to yet also awaken my viveka in this context, right? So the point to remember here is we are born to die only once, and we are not living to die every once and other time. And until we awaken our wisdom, viveka, the power of right discrimination, and focus on thriving rather than surviving, till that time, we are just like as if we are drowning and merely trying to sail through and not swimming across or surfing on the ocean of this world or the difficulties or the world, you might say. Whereas every wise person who came to this planet and where from whole of so-called wise text wisdom has in fact originated, they never just wanted us to teach about surviving. They always talk about thriving. And time every time was the same, difficult, same complex. So sometime I do talk that, if I have to, sometime I imagine when I find that how Meera, went through the thickest of forest and managed to reach to Vrindavan or some place. Think that there was no vehicle, and today you can reach from Delhi to Vrindavan in 1.5 hours. If I think about, the people like Nanak who took Udasis, he went by road, by traveling on GT road. Okay, the Grand Trunk Road now called, now it's referred as, or several other pathways. And they were, in fact, not surviving, they were thriving because they managed to sail through. And today we have all the means, but wisdom is lagging. So think they had so less and they wanted to reach to so many and so much more. We have so much and we are trying to confine ourselves. So what's lagging is the wisdom. What's lagging is our own inner knowing. What's lagging is our disconnection with our dharma. And when I talk about our dharma, dharma is not about Hindu, Sikh, Muslim, Jain, Christianity. Dharma is about that human beings are meant to excel, meant to bring kaushalam in the life of this planet and the life of each other. So the something that comes to mind is that this thing can be done, that if we can be mother-like to a situation, like mother always want to give more, give more, give more to the child and not to his or her own child, to every child. She thinks that every child must develop, must play, and must develop. So that's his mother-like spirit. So the what's needed today is how can we have the mother-like, be mother-like to the situation and have a sacrificing spirit. And the what come to my mind is we need to revive ourselves and awaken ourselves with our power of discrimination to our dharma of giving. So the one of the way to thrive is that if we start focusing on what can I give and when I how best I can serve. And the serve word come from the seva bhava. And that's what, if we get into seva bhava, just not only giving is, still has intonation attached to it that has a pride. But seva is being humble, full of humility, and considering other person, honoring other person, that, oh, this person is giving me opportunity to, in fact, make me feel great. And that's what I believe can be done. And there are a few clues I thought I will share to begin with before you start asking that how to thrive. So these are our inputs, that the way we interacted this morning, me and Siri, and we came to this conclusion. And this can make us feel is have a sense of greatness, not a sense of proud, but a pride. So this is what I have to offer you to begin with. And now let me leave to the good, intelligent question, and that might bring out something more intelligent from us within. So let's pray that I will try my very, very best, and so will Siri try the very best of wisdom that we have to answer you. But depends upon that what are your question now. So let me open up the house to questioning. Hmm. Yes, because a session is about asking. So let me know that now what do you have to ask. So who want to ask what? Yeah, anybody, any question?
Sir, I have a question, sir. Nagaraj Iyer here. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you, Nagaraj Iyer.
It is such a nice pleasure to hear your voice and your wisdom. Always I wait for it. Okay, so I would like to ask you, Charles Darwin said, survival for the fittest.
Yes.
Okay, so in your context, what you told us now, that no, the survival in I don't remember the slide in which you mentioned about Charles Darwin's theory. Okay, so but I only because from childhood or in the business when we do business everything is like survival for the fittest. So you have to be very good fit in the business. So in this context of this current situation of pandemic of COVID situation, okay, so who will survive? We will survive, or the coronavirus will survive?
Okay. Nobody can predict future. So I won't say anything about future, who will survive. But all I know is the one who will have wisdom and agility, and the one who has humanity, immunity, both things. Humanity will survive. Immunity will make it happen. And serenity is the key to access the deep wisdom. That's what is going to sustain. And that will make anything. So anything that follows this humanity and immunity will definitely reach to that community will be surviving. That community will be thriving, rather I would say. But rest others are only trying to survive, manage, okay, live up to, but not live. So we are trying to live up to, because if it's a scarcity or we are scared, then scarcity and scare will keep surviving. It will keep managing somehow showing up. So depends that if you want humanity to come up and not the fear or scarcity or being scared to survive, then human being has to thrive. And the key to that is be quick and do not wait. And through that wisdom, begin to use the wisdom and translate the knowledge and information based on your wisdom rather than the knowledge based on knowledge or information based on knowledge or information to understand wisdom. Is the other way around. So use wisdom to translate and interpret knowledge and interpret information and be quick in that. And the one who will be quickest and the fittest and the healthier in this process will thrive. That's my answer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Sir. Thank you.
Okay. So,
Sir,
yes,
Anju here.
yes, Anju.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you so much. It's really great and really inspiring to hear you and see you. And sir, my question is that being a coach, or even when you're not a coach, we all have some wisdom in us. We do touch, and wisdom is, I suppose it's the area of our values, where the values come up. So, but sir, we all know it somewhere, but we're not able to touch that point many a times. So how, and especially after the case of Sushant Singh in India, there has been many things coming up. Many people, psychologists, everybody's coming up with something or the other. But the real awareness is what you just shared with us. How to bring about this awareness, sir?
The answer is same, that be quick for yourself at least, first of all. And how has the only one answer? How is when you change the wisdom into action and not merely contemplation and reflection. So even the reflection word has an action hidden into it. So if you reflect or interact, it must result in some action. So begin taking some action. When you say that we have some wisdom, I believe not some. We have wholesome wisdom. And even a bit of that we can use and use quickly without wasting any time. And anyone we coach or our coach ourselves, then turning that all conclusion into some action and not merely thinking to be optimistic or to be positive, but to be realistic and trying to manifest and working to manifest things and working to act in that direction and bring about changes is what we need. And that's true about even your coaching business. That's also true about your coaching interventions. That if you will think that I just want to get some business, I want to get some clients, I want to reach to some people, then you're trying to survive. So I have seen many people even are trying to run for a job at this moment, whereas some people have been, the job has given the run to them. So think that it's a crisscross so-called race going on, and this side of people running to that side and that side of people running to this side. Using wisdom that we have so much available within us and turning every conclusion and every realization into action and not merely reflection is what will solve these things. And we are not to wait for many people. Begin with whatever you can do and whatever I can do in our own context. I hope I could answer you. Siri, you have anything to add here? You can add. Yes, Anju, could I answer your question?
Yeah, not really.
Yes,
I think
yes.
you've answered the question.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, sir.
Nice. Let's get more intelligent questions.
Okay, touching my wisdom, sir.
This is Radhakant.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Radhakant.
Yeah, actually, you just touched upon one thing, that is mask.
Hmm.
It is related to the mask only.
Yes.
I started my journey in the coaching fraternity. What I see, whenever I meet people, many of us are still wearing masks. They are not coming and sharing the thing which they should share. They are, I feel it could be my perception, but people are wearing the mask and they are not coming out and sharing the truth, which is behind that mask. And that really gives me a feeling that are we really a coach, and are we really, not in a place where we are not guiding correct thing. So my question is, why people are wearing the mask? Even if
Radhakant, if you're finding your clients who are not telling you and they're wearing a mask, then probably it's something to do with you, not with the client. One of the
to the client, I'm so sorry for interrupting you in between. I'm to the client, but I'm saying to the coaches. I started visiting to the ICF Delhi chapter and all those places. When I started interacting people, they have a dual personality. It seems sometimes. And
so you're talking, okay, in between the coaches. See, I think, okay, so I understood. You're coming in terms of when coaches are dealing with the coaches. That's what you're talking about. which I also, something was happening on the ICF chapter.
Yes,
Even I
yes,
didn't
yes,
understand what was happening. Okay,
yes,
good.
yes, yes, yes.
See, basically, it's all about, I think, Radhakant, it's, one thing which we always talk about it, when people come from ego, it is the other person's ego which will respond. And believe it, if you're genuinely coming from your heart and you can touch the other person's heart, whether a coach or a client, or it could be just any human being for that matter, it might take some time for people to trust it. But then ultimately, you will win in terms of creating a trust if you are coming genuinely from your heart. But then if people keep responding to the egos and then the egos respond, then nothing really can be done. So I don't know. That's my answer. Sir, can throw some more light on that.
I would add to this that let's understand that coaches are also human beings, and they are wearing, it's this way that as a coach, you are wearing a mask of coach for a moment. Just imagine a mask of purity over the field to bring the purity in someone. It's like, wearing a robe and trying to touch the purity in other people. So let's consider that coaches are also human beings. So it's okay that they have it. So the beginning point will be in the context of thriving, that once you understand that they have it, then they have it. So just go beyond and consider them as the helpless victim of their own circumstances, and who have yet not been able to touch their own wisdom, or have not been able to turn their wisdom into reflection and reflection into action. So just continue interacting in a manner that you have done your job well, and do not come out with a thinking or a thought process that they are this or they are that. And that could be a nice good deed of action on ourselves or yourself if you come out undrenched, unimmersed, or unmarinated by who are they and what are they doing. So you don't marinate yourself with the stuff that they are showing. Just come out like a human being. That means drop a bit of mask that day that you have. That's what my answer could be, because all this will remain, and that's where I think begin. I had begun that not today, since ages, every human being has been undergoing similar volatility, similar complexity, similar uncertainty, and similar ambiguity. And this is not about the environment. This is what is the truth about human being. And the very structure of human being is built like this. So in the time of our evolution, in the childhood time itself, we we start wearing these masks, and that becomes our personality. And it takes a lot for us to reach to the core depth of our purity. And those who touch that, then they stop getting affected by, even if somebody is a personality or is wearing a persona or a mask. So in such time, take it as a thermometer or a gauge that, oh, I'm getting affected by it. It means something more I need to, I have a journey to thrive here and excel here and win myself over here. So take that as a message, or as a, I would say, feedback to feed yourself to move forward when you find something happening around. And then I will reinforce this point that you keep touching the depth of your own purity if you want the others' luminosity and purity to shine. But it will, nobody can guarantee. Nobody can guarantee. Okay. So I think I gave last time also examples that how the Kakai tried her best to give the mask of jealousy and ruling the kingdom to Rama, to Bharat, and could not. So the very nature, the fundamental nature that you have, if that fundamental nature once you touch, then nobody can influence you. So anytime somebody's nature is touching you, just tell yourself and reflect that I have yet to touch my fundamental nature and not the fundamental law of evolution. Because in the law of evolution, everyone will undergo some mask. That's what my answer is.
So just to clarifying continuous question, if I can ask,
Okay, yes.
whatever is presented in front of me, whatever mask person is wearing, shall I accept as is, or shall I go behind that? What should be my approach when I'm dealing with the people like this?
If you want a piece of advice here or a piece of wisdom here, I would say not I say, but the wisdom says that as long as I'm interpreting that as a mask, I'm just struggling to survive my emotions, survive my peace. But the day I become unaffected, unperturbed, and I don't even interpret that they are having a mask or no mask, you are thriving. So if you go by the wisdom and viveka, serve them and do a good seva to them by offering your purity and serve yourself also, offering your purity. The day you will stop interpreting them plus or minus, and that's called, you get in sthit pragya, in your core of your being, you get rooted. That's where the thriving is there. Until that, we are surviving. So, thrive. I hope I could answer you.
Thank you very much. I got it now. Thank you very much.
Hmm. Yes, somebody said I have a question. Mansi.
Sir. Hi.
Hi, Mansi. Yes.
Yes. Hi. Hello, sir. So my question is actually recently came across this particular news, and that is I won't say names, but it's like this person who has worked really hard and he has built for himself a private teaching organization, but today somebody else have come into the picture and have pushed him out of it. So my question is in regards to survival. Like, yes, I understand that it's a competitive world out there, but do integrity, values, and basic human decencies not matter? Like, there is somebody who's really worked hard to be on top, and now somebody from outside just comes and pushes him out and is running the organization on his name. So where is like that like being good, is being good not a good thing? Like, what is it?
I have a very, very beautiful answer here for you. And that answer is that if there is a potent seed, no matter where you throw, it will sprout.
Okay.
If metaphorically this has given you some insight, that means it doesn't matter for a person who knows how to create things.
Right.
And they will able to create anywhere. So I'll give you an example of, I will not name the hospital, that a big doctor from that hospital in one day when we went there got vanished from that hospital like a quantum jump, like a quantum phenomena, disappeared from here and appeared in the other side. And we found that he's working in the another hospital and his entire team shifted there. This happens in the organization also, okay? When one person leaves the organization, then whole team sometimes flows with that person. Now, I always wonder, the person who is hiring him, such person, hasn't traced the weakness that this person, if he's giving a run to the other last company and many people running with him, that means he has made the people dependent on him and not independent of him. And he is also dependent on them and not independent of them. If he was a person who would thrive, then he would create another team there and won't wait. So when we came across this happening, we talked to the chairman and the MD and began questioning that because he wanted desperately that person to be back. And we asked him that what will happen if this person has already proven that he's so weak that he cannot create strong people. He's not a strong team creator. Yes, but if you truly think and you think that you are greater, then reach to him. And rather than calling him, say, be there, be in that hospital. I love you for this, being there. But I'm just curious that how will you help me? And seek help from him to make the people or the patient in this hospital to not to suffer because they came in your name until I get some person in your place. And it was a miraculous result. This fellow reached to him and talked to him. He was stunned by it. And then somehow, as if the illumination happened in this person, the one who left the hospital, and thought, okay, I will help you to develop another person. Think that working in another hospital, taking permission from both the management, he helped the management back. So he came from surviving to thriving, just with because we could coach the CEO that what's the right approach. So when you coach people or when you interact with people, if the wisdom awakens. So if you will interpret this question from the wise vantage point of view, vantage, you won't think that person has worked hard, he's become the victim, somebody's knocked him off. You would say, yeah, if this person is really a seed, will sprout. That's it. That's my answer. See, do you have anything to say here?
I think I'll have a little different, of course, perspective from surviving and surviving. Absolutely, I think what you said is correct. It's question of if you're looking at thriving, then you will take it as one of the hurdle or in a race what you do and jump it over and create a new one. Also, Mansi, I think it comes from I don't know how far it is true, but that's what my mind and heart is saying that somewhere it's kind of the what we have been told when we have studied in schools and colleges, there always been a competitive spirit which has been there, right? Which comes from a very survival point, right?
Yeah.
So when we are in that kind of context, when we have that kind of attitude in ourselves, when we have that learning only, so we tend to only think of survival of our own selves. But the moment you move from survival to being thrival, then probably if somebody would have understood that perspective, saying, that it's not just throwing it down, but in case, how can I include him or how can I become a part of the same organization and we can take it more forward, then that would have been more of a thriving perspective than surviving. So one, in our knowledge, in our learning from schools and colleges, we have always learned the competitive spirit, and that also builds in people that how much, they can exactly earn out of it, or they can take the things so that they become the first or they survive and they do not worry about the others. But if in the learning, what Sared, kind of showed the slide in the beginning, if each one of us have been in the school and colleges have told that it's a more deeper wisdom, that it's not just about surviving, it's about also sharing. It's also about understanding that when you are surviving and you are not surviving alone, it's all about the people who are helping you to even survive, right? So if today, for that matter, if we think of the sabzi walas don't grow sabzi and they say we cannot do it, nobody will, survive for that matter also. So it's a question of mindset, question of having the knowledge is one, and also implementing knowledge the one. And for people, such people, I believe they do not even have the right kind of knowledge. They're living in an ignorance only of survival. So I would like to say that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Waiting for another question.
Sir, can I ask the question, sir?
Yes,
Ankur,
there.
yes.
Yes, sir. Ankur here, sir.
Okay, Ankur, yes.
Sir, it was wonderful talk by you, and sequentially, if I see, it is from surviving to thriving, and from thriving, we generate that servitude towards humanity, and when we start serving people, we actually start thriving. But the question that comes to my mind is, when you have to develop that seva bhav or servitude, there is a lot of detachment that also needs to be developed within ourselves. So the question is, does the detachment is the detachment necessary before we start acting on our wisdom, or the detachment is part of that wisdom? The day I become wise, I will automatically get detached. So this is what is slightly. I mean, this is the question that I have for you, sir.
So can I just answer in a different perspective and sir can answer it, Ankur? Ankur, I really understand where are you coming from, and serving in the army, I understand how does it really happen. I think servitude, when you're talking of, it will not be detachment. That's my learning and understanding. If I can give you a metaphoric example, let's say if you have eaten enough in a day, and do you think even if it's your tastiest food which is being offered to you, will you be able to eat? If you've eaten enough, your stomach is totally full. You can't even take a bite of the food which you really love to do, right? So for
Yes,
me,
I
servitude
agree.
is not about detachment, but it's knowing that you have enough. And enough as like, it's not about the need. It's not like we have enough for the needs. And if you're greedy, there'll never be enough. So if we understand a perspective
Yes.
saying we have really enough and our needs are met and we are much better than even the basic needs. And then this, it comes attitude of servitude. I think that's a real serving. If you're detached, then you will be detached from the serving also. Why would you serve if you're totally detached? You don't need to serve. Then you are what you are. You're detached from everything. That's what is my thought process. So you can add to it.
I
Ma'am,
think, yeah,
may I say something before?
Yeah.
Sir, when I mean detachment, it is like when I am serving somebody, I shouldn't be attached with even that serving action. I shouldn't be attached to that person to whom I am serving. It is not that I want to hold on to this, probably the feeling of, as sir said, when I give, it gives me a feeling of pride. But
Right.
when I serve, there has to be a total disconnect from I would say the result or the outcome of my service. Somebody may
Absolutely.
like my service, somebody may
Right.
not like my service.
Right.
But then I shouldn't have a emotional tie down
Connect
to
to
my
it. Right.
service.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this
You know,
is
it's
what I
like,
meant by detachment.
I
When
understand. It's like, let's say when you're going on the road and you're giving 10 rupees to somebody. Do you really even bother to speak about it?
ma'am,
You don't, right? You will not. If there's a beggar
yes,
asking for 10
yes,
rupees, you will give and you will just walk away. You don't even bother to talk. That's real because you've just given it because it was there and you gave it, right? But let's say if you today donate lakhs of
correct,
rupees, then what is coming? Is it then you have to check for yourself if you're talking of real detachment in that sense? Is it coming out of your ego? The moment it comes out of your ego, you would like to share, will have all the attachments with it that you have done something big enough and great enough, right? So I understand if the detachment is like giving 10 rupees, मतलब you have given it, आपने दिया और बस हो गया खत्म. That's it. ना आपको पता है ना उसको पता है, बात ही खत्म. Right? If I understand you correctly, Ankur,
correct.
that's what you're saying. So that's a kind of
Yes, ma'am.
attitude.
Yes,
That's a kind of inner attitudes which has to be innerly developed. That if you have given it because you had it and you gave it, and there's nothing big about it, right? So it's all in your mind. So you have to only understand, and I think you also understand that any action which is coming from your internal ego or fear or ignorance, you know it
Mhm.
only. The moment it is coming out of the wisdom, ya tha aur de diya, bas ho gaya, khatam. Then you will not have this attachment or detachment. You'll be just giving for the sake of, that's it. Even not for the sake of giving because you had it or aapne de diya, bas khatam.
So that
Okay.
is seva
Got it,
bhava,
ma'am.
means being, because because I can, that's all. Because I am, that's all. Because it is, so that is, that is. So no attachment and no detachment beyond this. Hmm.
I hope it answers your question, Ankur.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I agree to you this for this so much. It's like beyond detachment and beyond being attached or being detached.
Yes. Right. So yes, I want more intelligent questions. Good questions coming up.
I actually had a question. Hi, everybody. I had
Hi.
a question which is perhaps an extension from Ankur's question, not so much about detachment, but I think if one of the objectives, rightly so, is to serve, I think it's quite emotionally draining to make this an objective. And I always struggle with it personally because it just takes a toll on you if one of your purposes is to give, right? So is there any exercises or practices that you can recommend that can help us sort of just balance that sort of your own mental health so that you stay protected while still being able to give?
Mm. Surely. In fact, there is. And if you have a, let's say, whole process of, in fact, initiating you to, when you don't think there's a purpose even, but that's a very shocking thing if I say first. We are not to live with a purpose even. So you might say then it's very shocking. So in fact, all this purpose, mission, when we say till that time, we are still attached with something, we are still trying to do something, that we are not in Seva Bhava. Seva Bhava has no purpose. And I'll just give you an example from a warrior, I forgot his name, that he was in the army of Guru Gobind Singh and was fighting against the army of like enemy. And in the evening, his job was to give water, serve water to the wounded or other one. And what happened that he began serving to this so-called water to the um, enemy, the wounded. And someone asked, "What are you doing? This is not our people, our army. It is the enemy." He said, "I see only a wounded and who's thirsty. That's all." And hearing this, then Guru Gobind Singh applauded him. And I consider that was the first, you can say, the United Nations Army, or you can say the ambulance, or you can say something that is beyond attachment and detachment. Just trying to serve. So no purpose.
See, Aarti, I can tell you one more thing. I've been going to Indian Spinal Disease Center Hospital for so many years together. In the beginning, when I used to go there, it is for a purpose of serving, because it's a part of just doing the service. There's nothing which I charge. Rather, sometimes I have to give it to the patients, and their family, to call them, to make them understand what the person is going through. In the beginning, it was quite a lot draining to me, because I was quite emotionally attached in terms of doing what I was doing, because I was wanting them to understand where I was coming from. And if I'm telling them something, it was for their benefit. So that was always thought process. I would come out of 2-3 hours of counseling and talking to the patients, and I would really be drained out. Like, I didn't feel like talking to anybody. I said, I don't know how the world is. They don't understand. So a lot of things, because I was emotionally attached on the kind of outcome that I was expecting from the whole service, what I was doing. But later on, of course, I did talk to Sir many times. And later on, when he also talked to me, and that's what he said. He said, if you're really doing it, it is just doing it because it is required. What you're doing, what they're doing with it is not important. If a bit of it that you're doing without expecting they will do exactly what you're telling them, then you will be stressed out. So if you're doing something where we're emotionally attached, even if you're wanting a result, the way you have talked to them, so even if you have talked to somebody for cleanliness and your outcome is that the person should understand and use those particular products or remain cleanly, then you will be drained out because you're really attached to the result. So the idea of serving, when you're doing that, and I'm sorry, somebody has to switch your audio off. If you're really serving, then just do it because you are in a capacity, you have the learning, you have the knowledge to give it to them. And leaving it to them that how much you really take it up, because you cannot have a control over that. The moment you get attached to the outcome, you will be emotionally drained. That has been my experience, and it's a very live experience till date. Some of the patients come and I sometimes also get emotionally attached because it's a part of your learning. A young boy came just like few months back, and he was driving and he was just about to get married, and the house was not even 10 minutes away. His parents had come to meet him, and this is in Rajasthan somewhere. And he just took the bike and was going to the office, and suddenly a dog came in between and he fell over and the spine injured. So he asked me this question, why me, you know, why like everything I've not done correct. So a lot of questions people ask. So when I was talking to him, I got a little emotionally concerned that, you know, such a young person, the girl is so beautiful standing right next to him and, you know, she had all tears in her eyes, what to do. And after counseling him for 20-30 minutes, when I came out, I was totally drained. I said, this is something not which I'm supposed to do. So in fact, then I realized I'm also emotionally getting attached to the outcome, what I'm looking forward if I'm trying to, you know, counsel him or help him or guide him through the things of life it is. So that is my learning from the serving when you're doing it. If you remain emotionally detached, it will not drain you emotionally. I hope
Right.
this answers your question.
Thank you. Yeah.
Siri, sorry to interrupt, but
Ma'am,
how?
this was sorry. Can I?
Divya?
I'm
So
just
let's talk
adding
to
to
Divya.
what Siri ma'am just said.
Hanji. Ankur boliye.
Ma'am, this was the exact detachment that I was talking about. So
Okay,
my
good.
question to you again, my question to you is, did this detachment come to you first, or now this detachment is part of your wisdom? This is what, see, ma'am, the wisdom was to serve. So you went and served. But since you were not detached, this wisdom or the serving approach was draining you out emotionally.
So
Now
when the
that you
wisdom
have
came,
started
when the
detaching,
wisdom, yes. So when the wisdom came, I'm much more freer, and I talked to a lot of other people, and I'm not emotionally attached to anyone, because I also learned from one of the doctors who's the MD of the hospital. And he said, because I also talked to him, I said, this is what is happening and I don't understand how to go about it, because it happens normally to every doctor in the first year of internship.
yes,
If something happens, they are going to rounds. If something is happening to a patient, they would feel it's happening to them. So he gave me this example. He says, Siri, if I become emotionally attached to all of them, I will not be able to live, because I will create everything in my body. And so when the wisdom came and I applied the wisdom, so Ankur, it's not only about knowing, it's also applying the wisdom. When I
yes,
applied it to myself,
practicing
and
it.
yeah,
Yes.
so when I started doing it, I said, okay, so in between I would get attached. Now also emotionally you can get connected to anybody. So we're all human beings. We all have the human emotions with us, right? So I do feel for some time, I said, yeah, I think this is some part of life. Then I said, it's okay. What I have done my best, and now everything is what they have to do. And obviously they have to go through whatever has happened to them. So it's wisdom applied, not only having wisdom and not applying it. Ankur, I hope this answers you again.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. Now I am fully satisfied.
Wonderful. Great. Yes, Divya.
So I still want to know, like, how do you detach? Because there are a lot of friends that, you know, that start talking about something emotional in their life. And I just listen to them. I try not to counsel and not to like say anything. Otherwise, I will also I do get attached. And eventually, towards the end of the day, I'm like, I cannot talk to anybody anymore at all. I need to be alone. And that's why I like prefer to stay alone in Pune. So right now I'm in Mumbai and everything. So
Yeah.
how, like, I know that we need to detach
Right.
emotionally, but how do we do that?
Divya, have you ever seen a movie in a cinema hall?
Yes.
We have all seen, right? And we enjoy the movie because we think that we are a part, we take one of the characters in the movie. Otherwise, you will not enjoy the movie. So somewhere you start associating yourself. Acha, okay, this is like me, or some part you say, okay, this is my part in it, right? So you're associated with the movie for 3 hours when you're watching it. But do you carry that movie back to your home? Maybe for a few hours. Sometimes it happens, right? Okay. Like I remember that movie Kal Ho Na Ho. It was such a beautiful movie, you know. So when I saw it, and so I was like, I said, yeah, what life is all about. You know, for a few days, yes, it carried, but then eventually it just vanished. Now you see movie as a movie. So one of the techniques, if you want to really see it, so you think that they are playing their characters and your character is to listen. But if this character starts getting emotionally attached every time, will she become a good listener? Because you're not that role. You are a friend whom they are trying to, kind of give their whole mind to you, so that because you're a good listener, right? So being a good, and are you in their place? Whatever is happening to them, are you in their place? Do you experience the same? No. Right? You just try to put it in your mind and you interpret that if this could have been your situation, what could have been. So stop doing that interpretation in your mind. Just listen as if you're listening to them, as if you're watching a movie. So become yourself. If you have understood, one of the techniques is just put yourself back. take a step back, and when they are talking about it, think like a movie running in your mind. They're narrating the whole movie, right? And the moment you will be able to step out, you'll be able to give your perspective also to them. But the moment you get emotionally attached, you can't give, because you also get into the situation. That's what Einstein said. You can solve any problem when you're a little above it, not in it. So if you can just practice this as a part of your technique, whenever somebody says in your mind, think they're telling you and you're watching a movie in the screen and how that movie is running, and then see how it affects you.
Now I understand what Sat sir said like 3 years back when he said, don't empathize. Like now I can connect. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yes.
And then also I want to add something. Till the time you're doing it, you are surviving. When you are it and it start happening, you're thriving. And all such people who come into Seva Bhava, like Mother Teresa or anyone who serve humanity, then find out then they are not doing it. So till that time you have to, the doing is a part of surviving to manage. And when you are in a being that Seva Bhava, that this person has come to me an offering as a Seva, and then not a purpose, then a Seva Bhava. From that wise self of the Viveka, and knowing from there and allowing the things to flow from there is thriving. So let's not lose the topic also at the same time, but journey is like this. So let's have more questions.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening. Yes, who's this one?
Ajay.
Ajay. Okay, good.
Very good evening
Yes.
to Ma'am and Sir, as always, and honored to be here and listen to such wonderful questions. And definitely, it's a lot of soul searching for all of us. So my question is regarding a transition of a human being from survival to thrival. Now, many times in this journey, people lose hope. People are unable to see or visualize or even accept that there is light at the end of the tunnel. How does one deal with these situations?
People is you, or you're talking about other people?
Other people, sir. Let's say a coachee.
Okay.
I have been through this journey, sir. So I have learned how to detach. And in fact, like what Divya was had this concern, it's a wonderful solution which Siriji had provided. I think we all need to accept that each one of us has got an individual journey. And we can't be a part beyond a certain period. And we can't be affected beyond a certain period.
So if it's other people, you know that as long as we are breathing, we are hopeful. So there is a hope always. Just connect them to the hope, which is so innate, the hope that cannot be snatched, the hope that can't be manipulated, the hope that is ever existing as long as human being is existing. So your job that time as a person who's witnessing is connect them to the hope is there and keep them hopeful. And then they will wait for the light at the end of the tunnel, because you know that there is, and you can't show them the light. So they have to see themselves. And if this is occurring to you, that they are losing hope, connect them to the hope, which you know how to do it, and you can do that. So really focus on that. But at the same time, offer that as a seva, and don't take a clue from Ankur, that don't get attached to and don't get perturbed by that. Why are they not teaching? Why can't they see it? They must see it. Then that means you have lost the hope, if you are thinking like this. So about them, connect them to, about you, don't lose the hope.
Can you please switch off your mic, because we're hearing a lot of noise in between? I'm so sorry. I don't know who is this.
Okay. I hope, Ajay, we could answer you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So there's a question from Vijay. which I could not understand. Can you please switch off your mics, please? Somebody we can hear.
वो गौरव को म्यूट करना पड़ेगा.
Gaurav Malhotra. Yeah.
Hello, Gaurav.
Okay, just 1 second.
Can you just mute yourself, please?
Sure.
Thank you so much. So we have a question from Vijay. He said, what is more influential, internal or external factors for thriving? So, sir, if you think you've understood the question.
Yes, both. Because there is no external, in fact, and there is no internal effect. So what you allow it to be. And human being has been given all the choices. That if the external was not effective, there had been no acharya, there had been no guru, there had been no way of interacting. So that means the external. If there was no way the people could awaken, then they wouldn't have insisted, or we don't bother about the external. So both are as a part of the same system. They can't be separated. Don't undermine any of that.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So now we have something a little bigger from Saurabh. He says most of the people in the world are money oriented. When someone coaches them, they will say when you have money or job, 80% of your problems are solved. It's difficult to change money orientation through coaching and preaching. In a way, they are right. 5% coached people have to deal with 95% uncoached people. And they are the only medium of communication is money. And when money comes, attachment is bound to come. It's a catch-22 situation. It's a comment he's made. And he says thriving means abundance in terms of money. And if money is not coming, only other things are coming, then thriving does not mean anything. Okay. So I just, maybe I can just a little bit add what I have understood, and then sir can elaborate definitely. You know, Saurabh, it's a very sad part of our whole, approach of human beings that we have given so much importance to money everywhere. Because from the very beginning, when a child is growing up, and as a child throws the costliest things, you will say, no, don't throw it. It's very costly, it costs me money. So we start putting this money from the very first point when the children are growing up. And what you're saying is right to the extent that people, at least in my experience, I've had people who have had a lot of money, but still they have a lot of problems in life. They're not satisfied. They do not have good relationships. And believe it, they can give all the money to get that, but still they will not get it. So it's a matter of also how people are coming. One of the very famous things which I normally would quote to people is, in terms of understanding, in terms of thriving is a context we are talking of where people are using the knowledge and wisdom to survive, plus let others also survive, and not survive, but create a wonderful environment so that they can really grow in that. So it's all about people are in a different class. That's what I normally tell people. Like in a school, somebody's in nursery, somebody's in KG, somebody's in 12th standard, somebody's in college. So people who do not understand that it's not about just the money, but it's about the people, it's about the relationships, it's about everybody who's there around you. Probably they are still in the lowest class. And there are many such people. I correctly understand where are you coming from. There are many such people. But eventually, at least to me, though it has been a little hard way sometimes when you tell this to people and they do not really accept it. And I had this one gentleman whom I was coaching, and it was again the similar thing what you have gone through it. So I requested him, I said, I would like you to come to me with the hospital. I took the permission and I took him to this hospital where I work. And believe it, there are young people who are spine injured, who can't even move the hand. They can't even eat. And I took him there. I said, you tell me how much money you talk about it. How much money can you give today if I take your one arm? आपको कितना पैसा चाहिए? आप बताओ मुझे. एक आर्म चाहिए आपकी. चलो एक फिंगर दे दो. इस किसी और को लगा देंगे. क्या फायदा होगा? So sometimes I understand it's a little bit harder way to deal with people, but if people are ready, I've tried once, it worked with that person. But yes, because our learning has been in such a way that we have always given prominence to money. And today we face what we are teaching all our children as well. So I think it's a matter of learning, and it's a matter of grace, I would say, and it's a matter of understanding. And the people who have wisdom, how to use that wisdom to inculcate the right values at the right time, so that you're understanding money is a byproduct of what you're doing. And if you have good relationship, you're able to handle your own self better, you're able to kind of at least be the way you are, then I think everything falls at the right place. That is my learning. So you can share your thoughts on this.
I can add that, yes, right from childhood, when we give importance to the money and we tell kid, okay, I'm giving you so much money, I'm taking care of you, and money is equal to care. And because I give you money, so you must agree to me, and money is equal to agreement. And money, I give you money, so you don't talk to me. I mean, I take care of you so much, then why you are talking against me or shouting at me? So we equate money. So let's not take it as their fault. And also at the same time, don't get perturbed by it. And if somebody comes, the money is important. You work with an objective and leave the person to good reflection, and continue working to connect the person to the person's own power of right discrimination and viveka, and trust in coaching. The biggest thing that you need to bring in your presence is that it's not I am wise. It is this person is equally wise, equally potent, and equally possible. And hold your presence in that space, and that will give this person a chance to connect to the own presence and will come to realization. But do not do it that because now I am in presence, so he will come to his presence. Don't do it as an act of doing it. Like I tell people that many people want to, they have a kind of, philosophy they live by, that lead by example. So let's say they lead by example and they start coming on time, or they lead by example at home and they start eating hygienic food. Now, the moment they get from some idealism and expectation is lead by example, then anybody who's not following that regime or that kind of a food habit, they start feeling bad about that, or they start feeling too much proud about themselves, or they start expecting that. So the leader who start going office on time, be leading by example, start expecting now everybody will start coming on time because I'm leading by example. I don't know who found this philosophical phrase. Nothing leads people, because you are an example of that. So make sure that when you are working to be with your presence, they will reach, they can reach, they may reach. But don't make it as a leveraging element, that because now I am in presence and I am speaking with true wisdom, this person reached true wisdom. But you do your job with seva bhava, that I am offering this as a good piece of wisdom and allowing this person to reach to the core of the being. And this person is also equally potent. However, because of the conditioning, experiences, and knowledge and information had been also ruling me, is ruling this person. And this person will also awaken to wisdom. That's all. So
I think I like Rajiv Babbar's comment, which is very true. He said, what's wrong in giving importance to money? Key is to be content with yourself. Money to one extent we need. Because of money, we are all here in this session. With extra money, we can do charity. Absolutely right. I think also Sanjeev, sorry, I just want to get your name back again. It's Saurabh. Saurabh is also not about, you have to understand one thing which I was just thinking when Sir was talking. If to a beggar you start preaching, it has no use to it, because his consciousness is about only fulfilling his basic needs. And somewhere when people live with that's my thought process entirely, which I'm going to share with you, and that's my experience with a lot of people. When in spite of people having a lot of money, they still have their survival instinct because their consciousness is still coming from the being poor. But there are people who do not have much money and their consciousness is more of thriving, and they still feel abundant in themselves. And this can only happen, Saurabh, if you can trigger the person to connect to their own inner self. Because from inside, each and everybody knows what is happening to them, which nobody can. They don't have to tell anybody. But the inside, they just know it. So if somebody is coming with a poor consciousness, even with crores and lakhs and whatever millions of money, still the person will feel that he does not have much. So it's a matter of how we develop. And as a coach, if you can help them to connect to their own inner self, knowing that what is important from inner self, probably they'll be able to also understand that what is really important in what context. And Rajiv rightly said, today without money we cannot do anything. You don't even get water without money. So probably we need money to serve. We really need money to do our best. And also if you have excess money, then obviously you can share with the people. I hope this answers your question, Saurabh. Anyone else?
More questions?
Okay, I had something from Uzma, which I could not understand, so let me ask. Uzma says, but in today's scenario, when all celebrities are committing suicide, so people are changing their perspective.
All.
Uzma?
What I actually meant here, ma'am, was I was actually supporting what you were saying, that it's not necessary that a person who has money, like, you know, we are not always thinking of happiness is equivalent to money. The question which the person asked was this only, that the person is equating happiness to money. But if we see today's scenario where all these people who have so much money, but they are committing suicides, so watching all this also, people are changing their thought process now. It is affecting everybody, and now everybody is realizing money doesn't matter. It's the internal happiness and contentment that matters.
Nice, Uzma. Very nice.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone
Yes.
else? Do you have any more questions?
Okay, more question?
I have a
Anyone?
question.
Yes, who
Divya
is it?
here.
Yes,
Divya.
Divya.
So, so for example, for the people who are not living alone, right? So, for example, right now I'm living with my family, and our way of being, the thriving mindset that we have, our parents, sorry about that. So our parents and our family or siblings or somebody, they are still in surviving mode, and they are like pulling us back, like they unknowingly, they pull us back from trying harder, like doing better. And sometimes we listen to them saying कि क्यों करना है इतना मेहनत, क्यों, मतलब why do you want to do so much, like how do you, like they will never be satisfied with any answers, but then because they still have the parent mindset कि हमको अपने बच्चे को बचा के रखना है. So how do you, like, what do you say?
What you said is the answer. You said the answer that they will think because अपने बच्चों को बचा के रखना. So get in touch with their intent and forget what they say.
So they have designed the right coaching questions. Not from a parent and a, you know, like a daughter, but say somebody has come to you with this kind of a problem and issue. How would you handle that? So take a third perspective and design few questions. Ask your dad and make them sit. Okay, mom, dad, I really appreciate your intent is always that you're caring for me because I'm your daughter and this is this. So what do you think? अच्छा आपके mind में और क्या और बताओ क्या बात करें? So just talk to them. They will tell you everything, and then they will understand where are you coming from. So it's a little bit value conflict. See, understand, it's not only just about because they have a different values, they have grown up with certain environment, they have seen them their own lives, and maybe you're a little ahead of it in terms of you're doing it better when they could not do better at their age. So you're doing better at your age. So that difference is there. The whole difference in the whole progression of the era and the age itself is there, right? So that you are seeing. So as I always tell people, you had to buy your iPhone, but if you have a child today, you will give the iPhone right away in the hand because they don't have to buy it. Right. So that kind of difference is there. So when you ask them good questions, Divya, probably you'll get the answers from their heart. And then you can tell them, okay, dad, so this is, if ultimate is happiness, so I'm happy right now. Now what do you have to say? Then you ask them the question, what happens? Right?
Okay.
And also, yeah. Anything else? Sorry, Divya. Does that answer you? So design the question and send it to me. We'll see how you work on it.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
So Saurabh says, do you suggest coaches should inspire coaches to become spiritual? I think spiritualism and meditation for self-realization is the answer. What do you think? You don't have to become spiritual, Saurabh. Each one of us has a spirit. And the only fortunate or unfortunate part is when we're not connected to that spirit within, we cannot practice being spiritual. And when I talk about connecting people to their own inner self, it's actually connecting them to their own spirit part of it. That spirit is free. That spirit does not need money. That spirit does not need happiness. That spirit is what Sir was saying is. So if you help them to connect to that part of their spirit, to connecting to their inner knowingness, they are already spiritual. So you don't have to do anything about it.
So answer if she says should, as long as you're doing should.
You're asking,
You're
he
trying.
suggests.
Okay. So just be. You just be. And rest will be. That's all. Okay. So don't take any responsibility of should do it. Just be.
Okay.
Yes.
We have
Yes,
10 more minutes.
more
If anybody
questions?
has any questions?
Okay, I think question bank is finished.
Okay.
Okay. So I think no more question coming in.
So just one, Saurabh has written that before you really connect with the spirit, there are layers of ignorance and darkness. So one needs meditation. Meditation is a process of connecting to your own self again, Saurabh. And that's what I said earlier. Help them to connect to their own inner selves. Even if they meditate or not, they will start understanding that are they coming from a place of their ego, or are they coming from their place of ignorance? Where are they coming from? So once they know it, probably they will start working on it. I'm sorry, my battery is running. Let's just let me put on these. So that's the whole part of connecting them, and that's, if you help them to connect to themselves, you might call it as meditation. That's only a term which you want to give it as. So that's what it is.
Okay.
Can I share a small thing? With
Yes, Divya.
So, so I meditate every day, but sometimes because I'm not feeling well or something, the meditation does not work. So, for example, yesterday I decided I will not meditate today because I was not feeling well. And I thought, okay, if I'm not able to meditate, let me just be thankful. And so I just lie down on my bed, and I was just going to fall asleep, and I was like, thank you, universe, for this. And I'm not sure. I'm feeling lost, and I don't know how this will work out because I'm feeling so low today. And I really don't know how is this going to work. But I'm really thankful for the food that I have, for the gurus that I have, for mom and dad, everything. And just before I fell asleep, a thought came to my head. So this was again about money, about abundance, about everything. That if I just shift money from here to just right on the right side or the left side, things will become clear. And when you are in that seva bhav, like Sir said, abundance, money, whatever you right now think is important will automatically come to you without even looking for it. And that time it won't really matter to you. Towards the end, it won't really matter. And this is something I knew, but then coming from the higher self, I truly understood it yesterday.
Very good.
So that was beautiful.
Very nice.
Very good.
So
Thank
let's
you, Divya, for
end
sharing
it
it.
with the same note.
Yes.
That be mother-like, who wants every child, not her child only, to develop, to be happy, to be healthy. And if you let the feminine part within you, and I think mothers have been given only to teach us the same thing. So that was the nature's design, that how the mother mentality and that feminine part within us is in fact never dying. So is our dharma. So how much you can be mother-like in any situation and be more not giving, be more serving. And serving means Indian word I'm putting, seva, nima, like naman bhav, right? Humility, and that will increase your immunity. I can assure you that, and that is thriving. Okay, so that's where I want to conclude. All right. So
Thank you so much, all of you, for joining in.
Bye bye.
And we are also coming up with the event with Jack Canfield. So if you have not registered, We have sent the mails to everybody who's on the mailing list. It's going to be on 30th of June, but you have to register for the event. It's free. And if you have any questions, you have to send your questions earlier so that we can pick and choose those questions. And please post the, whatever we said you, the links so that we can have more people joining in. So please use your social media and your contacts also to send them WhatsApp or messages, whatever you can.
And he's talking about true success, what it is and how to achieve it. And he has such a massive store bank of wisdom. And he flawlessly speaks for hours on this, on success principles. And he's going to talk about it, and it's for free in a masterclass. So invite your friends and people whom you can and join on 30th June, 8:30 p.m. in Indian Standard Time. Okay.
Thank you so much.